Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Beyond University Admissions webinar, hosted by the Nkoebe Motlhajoa Foundation. My name is Nkoebe Motlhajoa, and I am super excited to be your host this evening. On today's agenda, we'll be looking at the welcome and the program overview. I have just done the opening remarks. Like I said, my name is Nkoebe Motlhajoa, and then I will do a brief introduction of each attendee. Then we will have the opening address, why we are here, presented by Nkoebe Motlhajoa, who will give us context on the post-matric gap and key statistics, as well as the purpose of this session. Right after that, we'll have a perspective from a secondary schools, presented by Dr. Jenny Woolway, who will touch on post-matric options learners often overlook and guidance for learners and parents. Unfortunately, our TVET professor guest speaker has asked if we could kindly reschedule, but fortunately for us, a recording of the interview will be available on the official Nkoebe Motlhajoa Foundation website. Thereafter, we'll be looking at the university perspective, hosted by Dr. John Lubaale, who will be touching on admission realities as well as alternative entry routes and advice. After all of that information, we will also have a Q&A session and an open discussion. I welcome you to ask any questions on the Q&A section as well as the chats. This will give you the opportunity to ask all the questions you need and also give any feedback that you have. Then we will have our next steps and action items, where we'll be discussing a summary of the key discussions and action items. Thank you. Next slide. Starting off the incredible webinar, we have our first speaker, which is Nkoebe Motlhajoa. He is the founder and CEO of the Nkoebe Motlhajoa Foundation, an initiative dedicated to advancing youth empowerment and leadership development. He is an NBA qualified strategist with a strong foundation in strategic management, organizational leadership, and digital transformation. He's based in Johannesburg, and he specializes in digital ecosystems and client experience design, bringing a practical insight in how education, leadership, and industrial intersect. He's deeply committed to creating structured conversations like these ones that bridge the gap between opportunity and access, helping young people navigate an evolving world with clarity and confidence. Over to you, Motlhajoa.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much, Lesego, for the warm welcome and also a very perfect intro, I must add. I just want to confirm if I am audible.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Cool, thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. So my name, as Lesego has mentioned, is Nkoebe Motlhajoa, founder and CEO of the Nkoebe Motlhajoa Foundation. So tonight is not just another webinar. It is a response to a question thousands of families around the country have been asking, which is, my child have qualified for higher education and university, but then they don't have a place to go and study. So that is the question that we are facing today. And to perhaps cover that, we have professionals and speakers that will be covering some of the topics. But then I want to basically touch on three items. First will be the reality we're facing today as a country. Secondly, why does this session matter so much? And lastly, why we are here tonight. And I think to touch on the reality we're facing today, majority of us would know that every year in South Africa, more than 330,000 learners qualify for university admission. But available first-time entering spaces are only estimated at around 230 to 235,000. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, this means that only 70% of our learners who pass matric each and every year are only covered. But in 30% of those people are not covered by the university or the higher education and training facility. So we have 30% of our kids, our people, that does not have any place to go and study. So they believe, or so we believe as a nation. So this means that those tens of thousands are capable learners and they basically left without placement, not because they failed, but because the system cannot absorb them all at once. At face value, our country looks successful. We have more bachelor passes, more access to education, and more ambitions amongst young people. But beneath the success is a growing gap between qualification and opportunity. For many families, a bachelor pass represents hope, as we all know, yet qualification alone no longer guarantees admission, funding, or direction. And this is where the real problem begins for us. And this is why also this matters so much. So when learners don't get placement, they don't just lose a year, they basically lose confidence, they lose momentum, and sometimes they lose the belief in themselves, which is not a very good thing, as we can all agree. And yet the reality is South Africa post-school education system, including universities, including TVET colleges and other training pathways, offers over 500,000 opportunities annually across different programs. So the issue is not always opportunity. It's not the matter of I did not get space. The issue we are facing today as a country is guidance. And the reason why we are here tonight, as a foundation, we believe that potential should never be wasted because of uncertainty. Tonight is not about discouraging university. University remains a vital pathway for us, but it is not the only pathway to success, stability, and contribution. As we know, 30% of our learners cannot be absorbed by the system, so something else has to come. And something else looks like something like this: skills programs, occupational qualification, apprenticeship, learnerships, and entrepreneurship are not alternatives for the less capable, as many believe. They are part of a modern economy that needs different types of talents, which we have as a country. Our goal tonight, friends, is simple: to replace the panic with clarity, and to replace pressure with direction, and lastly, to replace silence with honest conversation that we're going to have tonight. This conversation will be practical and real. You will hear perspectives from different aspects of life, with first being our high school leader, my most favorite deputy principal of them all from the best school in the country. I don't want to take the shine from Lesego, who will introduce the next speaker, but then that's who we will hear from. Also, a TVET representative that Lesego has covered, that will be another segment on its own, and our very own doctor, who's now overseas and teaching and lecturing overseas, will also be touching on some perspective. So we're not hoping that you will get theory, but you will get guidance today. And by the end of this session, we want every learner and every parent to leave knowing you still have options, first. Secondly, you still have time. And lastly, your future is still intact. So I now hand over back to our COO, Lesego Morakile, who will guide us through the programs and introduce our speakers. Thank you all and welcome.
Thank you very much, Nkoebe. That was a great intro as to why we have started this foundation. Our next speaker will be Dr. Jenny Woolway. We are also honored to welcome her as she is the Deputy Principal at Brecken High School and an accomplished life sciences educator. She holds a PhD in science education from the University of Wits and is a strong advocate of the advance of evidence-based teaching practices. She has led the integration between digital tools within her institution, ensuring the technology enhances the meaningful learning without replacing the human element in education. Her leadership bridges the strategic vision and classroom reality, preparing both educators and learners for a rapid changing academic landscape. Over to you, Dr. Jenny Woolway.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Lesego. That was really nice of you. I'm going to share my screen with you so that I can get going with my presentation. All right. Okay, I've entitled my presentation Pathways to Purpose. And the presentation is made up of 5 different parts. The first part, it's about the dust has settled, now that you've got your matric results. Common gaps, what we get wrong. Then we're going to look at the fish climbing trees fallacy, finding your water and high growth pathways. And I'll end my presentation with a practical guidance, your plan. So if we start, it's been about a month, a little bit more, since you've received your matric results. Your celebrations have faded, and for many families in the webinar, there's a quite heavy question now looms. Now what? As a deputy principal, I spend much time looking at our pass rates and marks, but today I'm looking past those numbers on your statement of results. For some of you, the piece of paper was exactly what you hoped for, but for others, it's been like a door slamming shut. I'm here to tell you tonight that that piece of paper is just a snapshot of your life. It's really not a life sentence. If we look at the gaps and what we get wrong, there are 3 gaps. As has been said already, there's the university gap. With the current cohort, the class of 2025, there were 345,000 bachelor passes, but the government universities only have place for 245,000 places. So bachelor pass hasn't necessarily guaranteed your place in a university. The problem is that the system is bottlenecked. There's just not enough spaces. School also creates what we call a work readiness gap. Statistics show that only about 25% of school leavers are considered work ready. We focus so much time at school on passing exams that we forget to build professional stamina. Many learners have the certificate, but they lack the soft skills that the workplace demands. They lack the ability to communicate, to manage a schedule now without a bell, or to solve problems that aren't necessarily in textbooks. And the last gap is the information gap. Many parents believe that if you haven't started your degree now in February, you've lost a year. That's not true at all. The path to career is no longer a straight line like it was when we were at university. It's now what the children need to start doing, or the young adults that have their matric, is start stacking their skills. You can start a certificate in March. You can start to gain some work experience. You can even start courses in June and be more employable by the next year than someone halfway through the degree through the degree who hasn't started with their stacking skills. At school, what we've been doing is measuring every child using the same yardstick. What's important at school and what we measure is whether a child can read, whether they can write, how they problem solve given textbook activities, as well as abstract thinking. But those of you that are in this webinar wondering what to do, the world outside of school doesn't necessarily assess your abilities, and you don't just need to be able to read and write and problem solve. Society is in need of all types of people, from doctors who are more academic to hairdressers who use their hands really well. Don't know about you, but I visit the hairdresser far more than what I actually visit the doctor. Both have their place in our society. So not being able to follow an academic, pure academic path doesn't mean that all is lost. At school, if we see this picture here, I've got a forest. And if our job at school, if we can imagine what we as teachers do, all we do is try and make you climb these trees through reading and writing activities. And some climb up them. They're very agile. They climb like vervet monkeys or maybe like lions. It's very easy for some people because reading, writing, and abstract thinking comes easily. But for a large percentage of the children, not a large percentage, for some of the children that we teach, actually, they like fish in the forest. And what we've been doing for 12 years is we've been judging these fishes by their ability to climb a tree. And what we've done 4 times a year, every time the reports are issued, is we've been telling these fish that they are actually incapable. It's not true. And really, it's just the way that the school system is set up. What we need to do and what you have the opportunity to do now, those of you that are listening and didn't get into university, it's time to actually stop trying to climb a tree, but to actually recognize that you're a fish. You don't do well climbing trees. You need to go and find water. You need to put our fishes back in the water where they can actually enjoy some success. They were never meant to climb trees. So what are the water options out there? What are high growth pathways? I've just got 3 to mention here. I'm going to move this. I don't know if it's on your screen. There's the green economy. Those are careers related to the solar technology. In South Africa, we know there's a huge energy crisis. We have so much sun. We need people to start actually looking at solar technology, being those technicians that actually put the solar panels up, that maintain them. There's also digital architects. I'm going to come to that. And then also modern artisans. Let me just go to my next slide. Oh, has it stopped? All right, so with the green technology, this if you can become a solar PV technician, you can be that person that's actually putting the solar panels up. These are practical roles that power our future. You can get accredited for this in months and enter a seriously booming industry in our country. Those of you that prefer computers, there's a career called UX designers. UX designers aren't coders. What they do is it stands for user experience design. You don't write code. What you do is you design how the app feels and works. You're the architects who make the technology friendly for people like us. It's a career built on logic, empathy, and there's no maths or calculus involved. And then there's the modern artisans. These are people like plumbers, electricians, and coders. These are really the gears of our economy. A qualified artisan often out-earns junior managers. And what's nice about these careers is that they have the unique power of you being self-employed. So you don't need to work for a boss. So parents, your role is changing. You're moving from being the driver to being the consultant. And what you need to remember is some practical guidance. Stop the prestige pressure. If they didn't get into university, parents, those of you that are listening, please don't treat it like a funeral. This might be the place where you actually need to treat it like a pivot. Start looking, what is your child good at? Look for learnerships. Look at SETAs, the Sector of Education and Training Authorities. When you work at these places, you often learn a trade and you get a stipend while you're working, as well as getting your qualifications. And then very importantly, and this is what to the parents, really ask your child, what can you do? Or those of you sitting here, think of what can you do? What do you like doing? Rather than worrying about what did you pass and what you didn't get into. What I've created here, and I'm just going to go out of my presentation. I'll share my presentation. You're welcome to it. If you click on the fish, it will take you to a link. And I've created this Post-Matric navigator. It's a resource sheet to maybe help 1 or 2 of you find your way now that if you didn't get into university. If you're a practical thinker, learnerships are your best bet. You work for a company and get a monthly stipend, it's a small salary, and you study towards a qualification at the same time. What you need to do is you need to register on the Employment Services of South Africa. There's the link where you can register. And then I've put here some key SETA authorities to watch out for. There's one for hairdressing, project management, and business. If you want to do solar power, water, renewable energy, UX design, coding. Cybersecurity is another massive industry where we need lots of people to keep us all safe while we're online. And then SETA, that's a construction, plumbing, and those interested in electrical trades. Those of you wanting to go to TVET college, you need your parents realize that TVET colleges are not plan B. They're really specialized hubs for technical excellence. There are 50 TVET colleges with over 200 campuses nationwide. There are late applications. Since it's January, you may need to check for the second semester starting in July. Top Gauteng options include Central Johannesburg TVET, Tshwane South and Southwest TVET. But there, I put a link over here for all the TVET colleges, and you can go and have a look at that, which one would suit you or which is more logistical. Sorry, I've got a bit of flu. And then for those of you who are more creative, the UX Design Academies, I'll put some names there of places you may want to go to. Water quickly. Okay, so the class of 2025. My presentation is quite short. Remember, you're no longer matrics. Don't let the C or D value define your value. What you need to do and what really matters out there now, it's very different from school. What business is looking for? They're looking for somebody who's reliable, if you've got a really good work ethic, and very importantly, if you're willing to learn. You have those three attributes, and you'll find you'll go far. I want to end my presentation, and it's rather a short and sweet one, is to encourage those of you who are disappointed with your results or where you didn't get where you wanted to. Maybe you're looking in the wrong place, and maybe you need to stop climbing trees because that's not where your abilities lie, and start finding your water so that you can start swimming. Okay, and that's my story.
Thank you very much, Dr. Woolway. That is very encouraging. That was a very encouraging presentation. I just want to let the participants know that your presentation, as well as your post-matric navigator cheat sheets, will also be available on our website. Thank you so much. Next, we have Dr. John Lubaale. I'm just waiting for our technical team. Thank you. Next, we have Dr. John Lubaale. He is joining us as a lecturer in food and nutrition at the University College Birmingham, a research-driven food scientist with over 15 years of experience. His work spans in higher education, postgrad supervision, and international research collaboration. Dr. Lubaale brings both academic depth and applied expertise to the field of food science and nutrition, contributing to advancements that connect research with real-world impact. His perspective offers valuable insight into the relationship between the academic preparation and global professional pathways. A little secret from me, he was also one of my lecturers when I was still finding my path, and I would like to believe he is the reason why I'm also doing science. Over to you, Dr. John.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to this. And it's quite interesting that how life comes full circle. When I was teaching at Mamelodi, I didn't think for a second I'd ever have to encounter one of my students on the other end. But yeah, My presentation is going to be, I teach, so I'm trying to run away from making it quite academic to winging it, best of my experiences. And I have a PhD in food science. I specialize in food chemistry. And I currently lecture in Birmingham. There's a few stories I'd like to share, and hopefully they will lead you down the path that is best for you. As much as I may look like I have these qualifications now, it always didn't start out clean and straight as it may look on paper. And so my duty here is to try and walk around everything that has been shared, but try and tie that nicely from an academic who hasn't always had everything come to me straight. And so before I start with my presentation, I'll talk a little bit about where my journey starts. My journey starts a little in a small town in Uganda called Jinja, and I grew up on a sugarcane plantation. My mother was a primary school teacher, and that's where my passion for studying started. I didn't always want to get into lecturing, nor did I always want to get into food science. And so that is already a starter for anyone who is out there and unsure about whether the course they've even been accepted for is where they want to end up in life. I started out as a person who wanted to study medicine because I had an elder sister who was a doctor at the time. But I quickly realized my abilities didn't sit nicely in medicine. I had a terrible understanding of mathematics and physics. I also didn't like working with practical. Well, essentially, we used to have practicals where we would cut lab rats, and I hated the sight of blood. And I quickly realized around about the time I was 16 that medicine was not going to be the field for me. So I had to look around for something else. And so that is already a starter for those of you who are out there. The closure of one path for those of you who might not be getting into university might be what is leading you down another path. A lot of my friends got into medical school, and I'm happy for them. I'm also happy with where I am years later. That has only come to my realization almost about I'm sitting, when did I first find that out? This is about 18 years ago when I first realized I wasn't going to become a doctor. When I finished my undergrad in food science, I was top of my class. Unfortunately, I was also the only person in my class who didn't get a job. And so that meant that I was sitting at home for the first bit after university. And a lot of my friends, there was always that talk behind your back of this man has been top of the class, he has been top of the university and doesn't have a job. That's also another pointer to how pathways can differ, that you might even get into university, but there will be a realization moment when the rubber hits the road that maybe the degree isn't everything. During that period, for the first year after my graduation, I ended up working with my brother on his construction site. I did a lot of odd jobs, and a lot of the things I benefited out of those, I will talk a little bit in the requirements that you might want to think about as you take these different pathways. I ended up using most of that experience, and I still use it till date, and it had nothing to do with the field that I'm in. So I worked on a construction site. I ended up helping with my mother with her kindergarten. She runs a kindergarten. I was helping with kindergarten kids. I did a lot of odd jobs up until I ended up moving to South Africa for my honors degree. And again, that also wasn't straightforward. So my master's didn't complete on time. My PhD wasn't completed on time. And so all of these things are to show you that even with people who seem to have made it to the other side, the story isn't one beautiful story made up of roses and milk and honey. It has a lot of caveats and deviations from what one would expect to have achieved in life. And with that said, I will jump a little bit into a few things that I thought as a person who has not only been through the system as a student, but I've also taught at University of Pretoria for about, I think, 5 or so years as a teaching assistant. I've seen students come and go. I've seen students drop out of courses. I've seen students leave university altogether, and a few thoughts, hopefully, to give you an understanding or to give you an idea of what life would look like. And I will start with life for those who have gotten into university. One, university is slightly going to be different from your high school. And so a lot of the things that you will find at university are going to require you to self-discipline. My mother normally says you must restrain, self-restrain, drawing boundaries for yourself. This is a free space. You're coming from home where your parents tell you what time to come in, where your teachers tell you what to study, when to study. At university, no one is going to tell you that. Unfortunately, everything mostly lies on you. The only thing they will give you, or that we give our students, is going to be deadlines and more deadlines. And so if you can, as you get into it, start building yourself a nice little schedule or a nice little routine. A routine helps your brain get into a place where you can manage heavy loads of things. If you have a routine of, okay, this is the time I wake up, this is the time I get to have my breakfast. Building a nice little routine, even for going to bed. I know university is a very exciting time. There's a lot of partying. And I will not fault you for that. I was one of those people when I was doing my master's and my PhD. I would party quite a lot. But having a routine helps set things in line for you. For those of you who are moving away from your home provinces, or even if you're in the same province, there will be a little bit of an adjustment that will happen. When I moved to South Africa for the first time, this was in 2016 for my honors, there was a lot of anxiety on my end. I was afraid of a new country, new people, and I think at this point, I would ask you to be kinder to yourself. Be very kind to yourself. Take every step in stride, because you've not been to university. Well, even if you might have been, the course you're studying is not exactly the same course. If you're moving to a different province, you're uprooting your entire life out of what you know to something you do not know. I was depressed for the first couple of months while I was in South Africa, and so slow down, pace yourself. Do not panic. Do not be hard on yourself, because university is quite a challenging place. Like I said, all of a sudden you are still an adult, but lecturers are treating you like a child. So there's always that mix of where exactly do I fall? So be kinder to yourself as you adjust to all of these things. Picking up on the adjustment, one of the things I learned how to do while I was in South Africa was really join societies, join networks, building off of the community I had at University of Pretoria. And whatever university you will go to, there's going to be societies in university. For me as a Ugandan, there was a Ugandan society within South Africa. If you come from KZN, there is a lot of Zulu